everyone, welcome to my channel. So I've gotten quite a few new followers, so just a little recap. My name is Allie and I spend most of my time sewing and DIYing and doing fun crafty things. So today should be a really fun video. I'm really excited about it. So yesterday I watched Makara Tubers making Jared Leto's Met Gala look and I was like, this looks like so much fun. I want to recreate my own favorite Met Gala look because I was really sad that it was canceled this year. But it's a good thing it was canceled this year because everybody needs to stay the heck home. I don't know why people can't seem to do that, but that's a rant for another day. But I thought it would be a really fun challenge to just recreate my favorite Met Gala look, which is Lily Collins' 2018 book. And oh, it's so good. It's so pretty. I literally love this look. Like every time I think of the Met Gala, this is the look I think of. It's so gorgeous, which is honestly really weird for me because I don't usually wear black and it's not usually an aesthetic I go for. Like literally like the one time I wore an all black outfit to school, one time I did this, all my friends were absolutely shook. Like it was a big deal. So this look is pretty unexpected for me, but I've been obsessed with it for, what year is it? For 2 years now. I think it's time I recreate it. So I looked through my fabric bin and I surprisingly enough have the exact fabric that I need for it because they're the two black fabrics I own and have never used. But I thought it'd make a really fun video, so I hope you guys like it and I think it'll be a really fun challenge. So let's get started.
So I started off this design like I do with all of my other ones, and that is with a sketch. And although I already knew what I was making because I had reference photos to go off of, I still found it helpful to have a visual that I had drawn myself so I kind of know how the pieces are supposed to work together and how I was planning to sew the whole thing. And so this was my sketch of her outfit. Alright, so here are all the materials. So I have this mesh fabric, I have some tulle, I have some really thick interfacing for the top, I have some white cotton, like the little white peak it has, and then I have this satin fabric, which isn't what I'd prefer to use, but I think we're gonna have to make it work. So I'm gonna use the matte side of it that doesn't have like this shiny stuff. But I'm really excited, and I actually had all the fabric that I needed, so I'm pumped. So the first thing I decided to do was cut the mesh fabric that I was going to use as the skirt overlay. So I used all the mesh fabric I had and basically just cut it into a really neat rectangle so I could sew up the side seam. Next, I decided to cut out the bubble skirt, and so basically I just took the length that I wanted the skirt to be, doubled that, and cut out a large rectangle so I could double up the fabric and have that be the finished length. And then I just cut out two really long rectangles for the tops, and then I cut out a long strip for the waistband, and then I also cut out the bodice piece out of a really stiff interfacing I had. And because I was working with the satin fabric, it frays like crazy. But so the first step I did was serge all of the edges of the satin fabric so that it would stop fraying everywhere. And then after that, I sewed the side seam on the mesh fabric, the side seam on the skirt, and then so to get the layer part on the overlay that's a little bit darker on the skirt, I didn't have enough mesh fabric to just fold it up in half, so I decided to cut out a strip of tulle fabric and use that as the darker part. My tulle is wrinkly and I need to iron it, but apparently the only way to do that is by holding the iron 6 inches away and steaming it, otherwise it melts. Let's give this a go. So I tried the steam method and it was not really working in my opinion. I don't know if I was doing it wrong, so I ended up just using a towel as a press cloth and was very carefully ironing it, which seemed to work, so I don't know. And then I laid out the mesh fabric and put the tulle on top of it and sewed the bottom edges together. I also stitched my interfacing together because it had to be cut into 2 pieces because the bodice strip is really long. And then I sewed the tulle to the bottom edge of the mesh and trimmed all my excess away so you wouldn't see it through both of the sheer fabrics. I then took some extra tulle and just kind of ruffled it up and sewed it to the bottom edge of the bubble skirt to give some more volume to the bottom of it. I then folded up the layer of the satin skirt so the tulle would be encased inside the skirt, and then basted the top edge of the skirt.
So I worked for quite a while yesterday and I made a lot of progress. There's a few things though that are kind of not totally working, so I need to adjust some things. So here's the bottom of the skirt, and I didn't have enough of like the mesh fabric to fold it up twice to get like the darker part of it that she has. So I put tulle there, but the tulle's not quite as opaque as I would like. So I think I'm gonna try to do 2 layers of tulle and see if that works. So I need to sew that up, and then the underskirt is looking too much like a pillowcase to me and I kind of hate it. So I went and I found some of this really thin black knit in my mom's sewing cabinet. And while I was there, I also found this really cute floral pattern. So I think this will be saved for a dress another day because this will be exciting. So that was really successful. So I think I'm basically going to cut this in half, make this the lining, and then make the skirt twice as big. So we have a lot of work to do. So basically here I'm just seam ripping the whole skirt because I had sewn quite a bit of it yesterday, which took me quite a while. But when it was done, I unfolded the bubble part of the skirt and cut that into 2 rectangles. And then I used the knit fabric to cut a lining for the skirt, and I left the satin part of the skirt about 3 inches longer than the knit part of the skirt because when it bubbled, I didn't want the bottom edge of it to be the knit fabric. I wanted it to be the satin, so that way the satin would fold up a little bit more instead of it ending at the knit. And then I pinned the knit part to the skirts and stitched that and then stitched the skirts together again. And I also reserged all the edges I had cut so that they would stop fraying all over my carpet. And after those were sewn into one tube, I took the knit lining and pulled it up until the skirt reached the finished length that I wanted the whole thing to be. I then pinned the mesh to the top edge of the skirt and started putting pleats all around it. And then I basted all of those pleats in place and added the waistband to it. And I also made a slit in the back so that I could insert a zipper. Then I decided to add more mesh because it wasn't as dark as I would like, and then I stitched the bottom edge of that and top stitched the bottom edge so that it would lay nice and flat, and then I laid the mesh down super flat on my carpet and pinned the mesh to the top edge where it was laying and stitched that all around. I then decided to work on the top, so I ironed the interfacing to the satin fabric because I was using a fusible interfacing, and then before I stitched the top fabric to the lining, I decided to trace a little bit more shape into it so it wasn't just a straight piece of fabric. And then I also took this white cotton fabric I had, added some interfacing to it so it'd be nice and stiff, and inserted it into the top edge of the top so it would just peek out after it was sewn. And then I basically just sewed those into another big tube. And then to make sure that the center seam was really nice and crisp, I just sewed that after it was in a big tube and serged the edge so that it would lay flat. I then realized that I wasn't super happy with how the skirt was looking and decided to seam rip the whole thing and basically do it again. So I didn't like how the pleats were sitting because it was making the skirt not very flattering and kind of bellow out at the waist. So I decided that instead of doing box pleats, I was just gonna do darts instead because this would get rid of a lot of fabric that wasn't really being used so that it would lay a lot flatter on my waist and be a lot prettier. And then I sewed the waistband back on. So at this point it was time for a zipper, but I didn't have any black invisible zippers. I only had this red invisible zipper. So I was like, I don't want to go out to the stores because of coronavirus. I'm just gonna take a Sharpie to it. So I started Sharpieing this zipper. It seemed like it was going to work, and then I put it into the dress. I tried to zip it and it broke. So I had to seam rip the whole thing, and then I had to wait for my dad to go out and run errands and buy me a new zipper on the way. But after I had my other zipper, I put it in and it was working great. So after I put the zipper in, the skirt was officially done, except for the little gold jewel she has on the back. So I didn't really have anything to use. So for that, I basically took some gold trim that I had. So I messed with a few ways of doing this, but I ended up taking the trim and sewing both sides of it down onto a piece of felt and doing a few rows of that, so it would make a little gold rectangle. And then when I was happy with it, I basically just stitched it onto one side of the zipper so that when the skirt was zipped up, it would cover the top of the zipper. And then it was time to work on the accessories. So I really wanted to copy her earrings that she had, but I didn't have the right beads, so I basically just decided to make them out of cardstock. So I was basically just taking strips of cardstock and rolling them into these little bead shapes, and then I painted them all black, and it actually worked surprisingly well. And then it was time to make the crown, which was quite the challenge, but I ended up just taking this really thin cardboard I had, cutting a bunch of little spikes out of it, hot gluing those to a headband I had, and then taking this boning I had, cutting it in half, and then gluing that to the sides of the headband so that when I wore it, it would open up and make a round shape above my head. And after I was happy with the shape of it, I just painted the whole thing with some black acrylic paint. And then after the beads were all dry, I strung them all together with some other beads I had, and this is how they looked. The last accessory I had to make was the little red jewel she has on her face. So I just took this little red round one I had and took some wire cutters and a file to it until it was the shape that I wanted it to be, which worked surprisingly well. And I didn't record the hair for you guys, but I made a little diagram showing you guys how I did it, so I'll try to do my best to explain this, because it took me quite a few tries to create this insane hairdo. So the first thing I did is I took a little ponytail hairpiece I had and put a bunch of braids into it going to the right, and then I slicked back my own hair and put it into a high ponytail and braided that, and then I attached the hairpiece to my ponytail, and basically took all those braids that I had made and wrapped it around my own natural ponytail and then pinned those in place. I then took a smaller hair extension I had and put it into 3 braids, and then weaved some wire through those braids so I could fold it into these loops that would stay the same shape that I wanted them to be. And then I basically attached that to the bottom of my ponytail, and then I took a little piece of scrap fabric that I had and wrapped it around the part where the ponytail ends and the little braids begin. And it was quite the challenge, but I think I actually did a really good job of replicating how hers looked. And now it's time to put it all together! So here is the finished look, and I'm actually so proud of this. I think it's really close to what Lily's actually wearing, and I was able to replicate it with all the fabrics I had just laying around my house. And I really love this look, and I think I did a really good job of replicating her hair too, which was so hard, but I think it looks really spot on, and I love all the details. I also realized very quickly that this top is not very functional. So you literally can't move your arms. It's very constricting. So there's no wonder that the only pose she was doing was that. So yes, I'm holding my hands in one position the whole time, but that's what she was doing, and it's literally because you cannot move your arms in this. But you know what? It looks super cool, so we do it for fashion. I also love how the earrings turned out, and I think that they're super cool, and I actually might keep wearing them. I think they're pretty fun. And I thought that the crown when it was on looked really good too. I was really happy with it. And considering the crown is basically just cardboard, I think it's really pretty and pretty close to hers. I also tried to replicate her eye makeup as best I could and the similar shoes that I had. And I also painted my nails black for this, which I've never done before, but I actually didn't hate, so that was kind of fun. But this was just a super fun challenge, and I had a lot of fun doing it. So if you guys want to give this a try, I would highly recommend it. It's super, super fun. Also, if there are any other looks that you guys would like to see me recreate as a fun challenge, you should leave a comment down below because I had a lot of fun doing this one, so I might try to do more in the future. And just thank you for watching. Bye!